Hello everyone, let us talk about this week's topic, myasthenia gravis. See, myasthenia gravis basically affects the skeletal muscle. That too, females are more commonly affected between the ages of 20s and 30s when compared to male, but in male, the older age are affected, basically of 50s and 60s. And the cardinal features are weakness and fatigability of the muscles, that too mainly of the proximal muscles. Proximal muscles are the muscles which are shoulder and hip muscles which are present in near the center of the body. And the earliest symptoms of the myasthenia patients will be ptosis and diplopia because the earliest muscles affected are the lids and the extraocular muscles. Later on, the facial muscles, pharynx and the tongue muscles are affected, which lead to difficulty in chewing, swallowing and snarling expression. See, this is the snarling expression due to the facial muscle involvement of the myasthenia gravis. When the patient tries to smile means due to the weakness of the facial muscles, drooping of the mouth on one side and the ptosis is seen, which lead to an expression called as a snarling expression. See, the pathogenesis. Normally, calcium enters, it acts on the acetylcholine vesicles and makes it to release in the synaptic cleft. Later on, the released acetylcholine binds to the acetylcholine receptors. Afterwards, there will be influx of cation, mainly the sodium ions, which leads to the action potential formation, that is the depolarization, and the excess acetylcholine in the synaptic cleft will be cleaved by the acetylcholine esterase. This is the basic mechanism occurring in the neuromuscular junction. But in myasthenia, what happens is the antibodies are targeted against these acetylcholine receptors. So the acetylcholine won't be able to bind to it and there won't be any depolarization. So there won't be any muscle contraction or action potential generation. This is the pathogenesis of myasthenia gravis. Now you have to know one more term called as presynaptic rundown, which means the amount of ACH released per impulse normally declines on the repeated activity. This also plays an important role in the pathogenesis. Now we have to know what are all the antibodies associated with the myasthenia gravis. See, basically the antibodies are of IgG and T cell dependent. I told you like the antibody majority are targeted against the acetylcholine receptors. There are other antibodies also like MuSK, LRP4, agrin, titin, netrin receptors. Now we will see where all these proteins are located. See, MuSK means it is a muscle specific kinase. LRP4 is low density lipoprotein receptor related protein. See, these two proteins are like linker proteins to the acetylcholine receptors. The antibody are targeted against these protein, so the acetylcholine receptor will be weakened. Hence, the acetylcholine won't be able to enter and the depolarization won't occur. Similarly, the agrin protein. Agrin is something that is binds to the LRP4 protein. And there is also antibody against the titin and other skeletal muscle receptors. See, even though the action potential is generated, it has to reach the muscles and the contraction has to occur. Titin is a binding protein in the sarcomere, as you all know. So, if the antibodies are targeted against titin also, there won't be any muscle contraction. And there is also antibody targeted against netrin-1 receptor and Caspr2 proteins. See, these proteins are associated with other syndrome linked to the myasthenia gravis, like Mohrback syndrome. Mohrback syndrome occurs basically due to the antibody against the Caspr2 protein. Now, let us see what all the disorders associated with the myasthenia gravis. So, first of all, we have to diagnose the myasthenia gravis now. So, basically on the history, the presenting complaints, the earliest presenting complaints, as I have told earlier, are the diplopia, ptosis. Later on, will be the dysphagia, dysarthria, like that. And the proximal limb weakness, mainly the patient won't be complaints like they won't be able to comb their hair because of the shoulder muscle weakness. And there will be a fatigue with repeated activity and improved by rest. That is the classical presentation. And on physical examination, you can see ptosis at rest. And when you test for the muscle strength, it will be weak. The power of the muscles will be weak, and there won't be much of shoulder abduction. When coming on to laboratory testing, we can test about the antibodies against the acetylcholine receptors. And then there is a test called as repetitive nerve stimulation. Based on that, we can diagnose the myasthenia gravis. When there is a decrement of more than 10% at 3 Hz, it is a probable. And based on this repetitive nerve stimulation also, we can differentiate the myasthenia with the other disorders. And then heterophonium, which is the, now we don't do it much, but it is one of the clinical tests to differentiate myasthenia gravis. And what we'll do is, they will give 2 doses of heterophonium. First dose is 2 mg, later on the dose is 8 mg. First of all, why they divide these two into separate doses means, when they administer the whole of 10 mg means there will be side effects from that of the heterophonium. So that's why we divide it into 2 doses, like 2 mg and 8 mg. And then we check for the response. If they improve means it is likely of the myasthenia gravis. If they worsen means it is due to other disorders like acetylcholine excess. And then the disorders associated with the myasthenia gravis. See, the antibodies can be produced from the thymus. So if there is any thymoma, there will be abnormal antibody production, which leads to a myasthenia gravis. And then other autoimmune disorders associated. If a person is suffering from other diseases means, like Graves' disease, rheumatoid arthritis means, they will be more likely suffer from the myasthenia gravis, because the autoimmune disease major pathogenesis is the antibodies. So there will be antibodies against the neuromuscular junction also. That's why. So there will be other disorders to exacerbate myasthenia gravis also, like hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism and infection. See, this is one of the important point you have to know. If myasthenia gravis patient comes with a high fever or cough or any exacerbating infection like sepsis condition means, first we have to treat that infection. Otherwise, it will worsen the myasthenia gravis and causes the myasthenia crisis. Myasthenia crisis means there will be a respiratory distress occurring due to a myasthenia. I'll be discussing that later. But first you have to remember that if a patient of myasthenia comes with the infection means, you have to first treat the infection rapidly, immediately. Otherwise, it will lead to a worsening condition. And then other lab tests like CT, MRI to look out for the other disorder associated with the myasthenia gravis. Now, see, drug worsening myasthenia gravis. Basically, in antibiotic, you have to know quinolones. Quinolones will worsen if a patient is myasthenia means, if they take quinolone means, the quinolone will worsen the myasthenia gravis. So, you should be careful when giving quinolones to these patients. Hence, anti-TB drug therapy or anti-HIV therapy must be administered carefully to the myasthenia patients. And then other antibiotics like quinine derivatives, penicillamines will also exacerbate myasthenia gravis. See, they highlighted ones are the important ones you have to know. Antibiotic, mainly quinolones, quinine derivatives, penicillamine, and checkpoint inhibitors, mainly used for cancer. Those you have to know. Now, let us see the treatment part of myasthenia gravis. First of all, we divide it into 3. Ocular type of myasthenia gravis, then generalized, then crisis. See, in ocular type, only the ocular muscles are affected. Generalized means all part of the body muscles are affected. Crisis means the respiratory muscles are affected. See, if the ocular part of myasthenia gravis, we do MRI of brain, and then we administer anticholinesterase. See, the basic principle behind this anticholinesterase treatment is when anticholinesterase actually attacks the excess acetylcholine present in the synaptic cleft. So, if we give anticholinesterase inhibitors means like pyridostigmine, the acetylcholine present in the synaptic cleft will be increased. So there will be increased chance of binding of the acetylcholine to the acetylcholine receptors and increased muscle contraction. This is the basic principle behind this treatment. If that is unsatisfactory means we go for a immunosuppressive therapy. And then in generalized type of myasthenia gravis, we first give anticholinesterase therapy. Afterwards, we then evaluate if the patient requires a thymotomy or not, because as I have said, thymus is an important organ which basically produce the antibodies for this condition. So if we do thymotomy means will the patient improve or not, we evaluate for that. If a patient is of good risk, we then do thymotomy. If they are of poor risk candidate means we then do for a plasmapheresis. And then we look for the clinical status. Even though we done thymotomy, if the patient is not improving means we then go for a immunosuppressive therapy. And then in crisis, in myasthenia crisis, we have to act immediately because the patient is in respiratory distress. So we have to take care of the respiratory care like intubation and ventilation like that, because we have to give air to the lungs, otherwise the patient will collapse. And then we look for the plasmapheresis. If improved means we then treat it like a generalized myasthenia gravis. If they are not improving means we go for a immunosuppressive therapy. Now coming on to a treatment. As I have said earlier itself, in myasthenia gravis, the first diaphragm muscles are affected, respiratory muscles are affected. The most common cause for myasthenia crisis, as I have told earlier, is infection. So you have to treat this infection aggressively. And then, before doing that, first of all, you have to differentiate it from the cholinergic crisis. How we will do is, first of all, we will stop the anticholinesterase drug therapy. If the patient improves means it is of cholinergic crisis. If they not improve, if they worsen means it is myasthenia crisis. So how will we treat it? As I've told earlier, ventilatory assistance, antibiotic therapy to treat the infection, pulmonary physiotherapy, IVIG, and plasmapheresis. So what is the immunologic therapy of myasthenia? So for acute treatment, we do plasma exchange, IV immunoglobulin. But for long-term treatment, we give steroids and thymotomy. I hope you have understood this topic, myasthenia gravis. If you have any doubts, please comment below and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.